It's finally here. Let's take an initial look at the Constellation Alpha, and we'll start with some basic observations. Inside the shipping box was a white box that contains layers of foam surrounding the Alpha. It seems well protected for transportation. Here's how the Alpha compares to the other grips in my collection. A Thrustmaster Warthog, Constellation Delta, MT50 CM2, with the Alpha on the right. And here is the Alpha compared to the MT50 CM2 by itself. As you can see, the Alpha is a little shorter. The Alpha is not quite as heavy as the Warthog, but it outweighs the Constellation Delta. The overall diameter of the grip is a little bit larger on the Alpha, and seems a little bit more tuned to having a twist, which is something the Warthog and the MT50 CM2 lack. Locking out the twist requires a hex bit or an Allen wrench, and doesn't come included, and is adjusted through a hole near the base of the stick. What was included was a dog tag with the serial number of the grip, a very nice touch by Virpil. I've mounted the grip in place where my MT50 CM2 was, and configured the lighting to match the rest of the pit. I know some people aren't fond of having lighting on their joysticks, but for me, it really completes the look of the pit. The next step was to fire up the Virpil software and configure the new grip. I also went through the process of checking all the axes and all the buttons to confirm that everything was in working order. The setup was easy and straightforward. I ran into no issues with the calibration, and I've left all the button configurations as default for now. I also took the time to lock out the twist axis. I may unlock it in the future, but right now I'm too used to having a stick that doesn't have a twist. Once locked out, it's completely solid, and there's no play whatsoever. The Alpha has an amazing number of controls, all accessible from a single grip. A metal dual stage trigger, a flip trigger, an analog stick, 3 4-way hats, 1 2-way hat, and a push on all the hats and the analog stick. It also has 3 momentary buttons, an analog brake lever, and a scroll encoder with dual push. That makes the scroll encoder sort of like a dual stage trigger, but for your thumb. All of the buttons are easy to press and have a nice click. Everything feels responsive. Once the Alpha was configured in Virpil's own software, I used a joystick gremlin to set some custom configurations for the pit. This allows me to set up custom profiles for each game and to map joystick buttons to keyboard keys for games and software that don't support joysticks. It is then a matter of going into each game and setting the bindings for the new button configurations on the Alpha. Because it's treated as a new device, and the button order doesn't match what was on the MT50 CM2, I had to go through and make sure that all the bindings were set properly. And now for the important part, at least for first impressions. How does the Constellation Alpha feel? How does it perform? And is it fun? Because the layout is similar to the MT50 or the Warthog, transitioning to the Alpha has been relatively straightforward so far. Anyone coming from those sticks will find it easy to switch to the Alpha. The Alpha also feels considerably different than the Delta. The Delta is designed to be held in either hand, but the Alpha is designed in right and left hand variants. The mini stick on the Delta is considerably easier to reach than the Alpha. So if you're considering using a stick for on-foot gameplay as well, like I have, then you may want to consider the Delta for that instead of the Alpha. But other than this one minor detail that's probably an edge case, the build quality on the Alpha seems like a leap forward compared to the Delta. The grip is a little bit larger in my hand compared to the MT50, and I find the pinky button a little bit more difficult to reach. It could be that I'm just more used to having the MT50 in my right hand. So I'll have to keep playing with the Alpha to see how that plays out over time. Before I give a final verdict on the Alpha, I want to give enough chance to play with it and make sure that the control bindings are set up in the way that is most optimal for me. I want to give it a fair shakedown, but so far I'm very impressed. And it does certainly seem to be fun. Leave a comment and let me know if there are any questions I can answer for you about the Virpil Constellation Alpha, or anything about my setup. If you liked this video, please like it down below. And please don't forget to subscribe if you want more content like this, including my final verdict on the Alpha. If you're interested in Star Citizen, please check the description below for my referral code, and for information about my org. It all helps me out. Thanks.